Accused of murdering his girlfriend in her Mangosuthu University of Technology residence in the CT in 2018 resumes at the Durban High Court today.
Thabani Mzolo is accused of shooting Zolile Khumalo in her room. These are live visuals. Let's go there now.
Let's continue. The person who is asking where is that person is Dobego, and the phone is then given to Smiso, and the person who says here she is, that is Smiso. In other words, in as far as the second call that I'm dealing with, that is the call that the recording of the 1st of May 2018 at 23 hours 27 minutes has 3 people in the conversation, that is the accused, Dobego as well as Smiso. Dobego then asked where is Nosipo, and the phone was given to Nosipo, but she couldn't speak on the phone. I will not deal with the other evidence of Nosipo. I will deal with that later. I've been just concentrating on the evidence pertaining to the identification of the voices on the call recordings. In as far as the voice recordings are concerned, Smiso Buthelezi also testified. He was sworn in, and he testified that he is 21 years old and resides at room 928 at Lonsdale. He is also a student at the Mangosuthu University of Technology. He knows the accused before court as Thabani Mzolo. He got to know him in the year 2017 as Thabani Mzolo was a friend of Dobego Nzuza, also known as Iskakakaka, who was Smiso's roommate in 2017. In as far as the voice recordings are concerned, he was referred to Exhibit 1, and he confirmed that he knows this cell phone, the Samsung cell phone, and he recognized it. He testified that the accused was in possession of this cell phone on the 1st of May 2018. He testified that after the shooting, the accused took this cell phone and made a call. He spoke to someone and he then handed the phone to him, that is to Smiso. Smiso also spoke to that person who was ascertaining whether indeed the accused had shot the deceased. The person who was speaking on the other end of the conversation was Ntobeko Nzuza. Ntobeko Nzuza at that stage did not believe that indeed the accused had shot dead the deceased. Ntobeko then asked that the phone be given to Nosipho, and he did speak to her, but Nosipho was crying hysterically. Smiso further testified that there are other calls that were made and that were other calls that were coming into this phone. He recalled that on one of those phone calls, the accused admitted to have shot Zo, that is the deceased. That was in reference to the call made at 23 hours 27. In reference to the call recording on 23 hours and 30 minutes, he confirmed that he recognizes that call. It was at the time that he had just exited the room and he had the accused had given him the cell phone. Now, going to the specific voice recordings, I'll start with the first voice recording at 23 hours 22 minutes. Smiso testified that he recognizes the voices as those of the accused and Ntobeko. He confirmed that this happened after the shooting. He testified that the accused is the one who is saying, open quotes, "I have shot Zo," close quotes. The call that was made at 23:27, Smiso testified that he recognizes this call. The voices that on the recordings are those of the accused and Ntobeko. Later, he joined in and he said Ntobeko had asked, "Where is Smiso?" And this witness, Smiso, is the one that responds by saying, "I am here." All in all, therefore, there are three people in this conversation. That is Ntobeko, the accused, as well as Smiso. Over and above those three, there was a person who came in onto the phone crying, and Smiso identified this person as Nosipho. Smiso further identified the call that was the voice recording pertaining to the cell phone conversation at 23 hours 30 minutes. He testified that the persons who were in conversation in that call were Ntobeko, the accused, as well as this witness, that is Smiso. He testified that at that stage he had been standing outside room 101, and Ntobeko spoke to him initially, and afterwards Ntobeko asked, "Where is the accused?" And this witness then called, said the following, open quotes, Thabani, Mshazi is asking me to give you the phone." So he identified his own voice and that of Ntobeko. Thereafter, he gave the phone to the accused, and he identified the accused as the person who was then responding to Ntobeko. The words to the effect that, and I quote, "I will phone you when the police have arrived," close quotes. Smiso identified those words as having come from the accused. His interpretation of those words is that the accused meant that he will phone Smiso when the police have arrived, since the accused had given Smiso instructions to exit the room and to go to the security to phone the police. Lastly, I want to deal with the call that came, I want to deal with the call where Smiso said the conversation was between the accused and an unknown person. The voice recording was captured at 23 hours 39 minutes on the 1st of May 2018. Per capita selector, I will quote the following words, open quotes. I simply came in person and shot her, close quotes. And Smiso identified those words as coming from the accused. Smiso testified that he recognized this voice because he was also inside the room, having come back into room 101. They were waiting for the police to arrive, and inside the room there was the accused, Nosipo, the deceased, and Smiso. He does not know with whom the accused was speaking. He recognized further the voice of the accused responding as follows, open quotes, someone was disrespecting me and I decided to come in person and shoot that person. Close quotes. The voice of the unknown person says, open quotes, who is that person, close quotes, and the accused voice, as recognized by Smiso, responds as, open quotes, umama wekhaya, close quotes. As to whom the accused was referring to as umama wekhaya, Smiso testified that he was referring to the deceased. The voice identified by Smiso as belonging to the accused further says the following in answer to a question by the unknown person, open quotes, she was having an affair and the guy showed me a picture, close quotes, that is, according to Smiso, the accused that was saying those words. Smiso further identified the voice of the accused as having said the following words, open quotes, I decided to go home, get a firearm and shot her. That is the reason her body is lying on the ground, close quotes. Smiso identified the voice recording for 23 hours 47, still on the 1st of May 2018. He recognized the people conversing as accused and Dobego. In that recording, the accused was saying, I did not manage to exit. The voice that asks, Are they blocking or stopping you? Smiso identified that as Ntobeko. He identified the voice of the accused as saying, open quotes, "No, the police are all over the place. I could not manage to go out," close quotes. Ntobeko then asked, open quotes, "Do you have the firearm in your hands?" The voice of the accused responds as follows, open quotes, "No, it's on top of the table," close quotes. And as far, that is the end of his identification of the voices. He was then invited to respond to testify about when last he saw the cell phone, that is Exhibit 1. And he testified that the cell phone was seized by one of the police officers when they were outside the deceased room on the 1st of May 2018. Smiso was cross-examined on several aspects of his testimony. I will first concentrate on the cross-examination with reference to the cell phone recordings, to the voice recordings. It was put to him that there are outgoing calls to cell phone number 071 479 7702. Secondly, 078 678 5515. And thirdly, 061 444 1161. It was suggested to Smiso that it means, therefore, that there should have been 3 handsets inside the rooms to which these numbers belonged. Smiso disputed this. He was also invited to comment on whether there's a difference between an outgoing call made at Lonsdale and an incoming call made to a phone in Lonsdale. He confirmed that there is a difference. The version of the accused that was put to Smiso is that in terms of the recordings, it suggests that 3 devices were used to make calls from Lonsdale, and Smiso disputed this vehemently. It was suggested to him further that he was talking hearsay because he was not part of the conversations except for one, and Smiso disputed that vehemently and say he was part of this conversation, or at least some of them. That is the end of the summary of the evidence pertaining to voice recordings. I have dealt with the evidence of Smiso and Nosipho pertaining to voice recordings, but I have not dealt with the summary of their evidence concerning the actual shooting and subsequent death of the deceased. I will start with the evidence of Nosipho Bengu. I've already said that she knows both the deceased and the accused, and the capacity in which she knows them. Nosipho testified that as far as she knows, the relationship between the accused and the deceased started early in 2017. During the course of 2017, they broke up, but they reconciled towards the end of 2017 until 2018. She could not recall what had caused the breakdown. Towards May 2018, the relationship between the accused and the deceased was not good at all, because the accused was abusive towards the deceased. The accused came across as over-possessive of the deceased. In as far as the abuse is concerned, she recalled that at some stage the deceased came back with marks on her neck. The deceased would explain that the accused had strangled her. She further testified that the accused would threaten to kill the deceased if she were to break up with her. This bitterness between the accused and the deceased reached peak between February 2018 and April 2018. She testified that as at the 1st of May 2018, the deceased was still her roommate. She became aware that 2 days before the 1st of May 2018, the deceased, let me rephrase that. 2 days before the 1st of May 2018, the deceased sent her an SMS message telling her, that is Nosipho, that she and the accused had broken up. To the best of her knowledge, therefore, as at the 1st of May 2018, the deceased and the accused were no longer in a romantic relationship. She testified that another friend of theirs, Akani, who was one of the witnesses, was aware of this as well. On the 1st of May 2018, she was together with the deceased in their room 101 at Lonsdale. The time was about 22 hours, 15 minutes. They were sitting and studying. Smiso Buthelezi came in and said he had been sent by the accused to fetch his golf shirt. Smiso added that he was going to take it later, as he was first going to purchase airtime. The deceased placed this golf shirt on the bed. Smiso left and closed the door behind him, but they did not lock it. Later that evening, Smiso came back in the company of the accused. She could not recall as to who between Smiso and the accused entered first. At that stage, the deceased was sitting at her study desk studying, while she, Nosipho Bengu, was seated on her bed, also studying. The accused was in possession of a blue bag. She saw him taking a firearm out of this blue bag and cocking it. At that stage, the accused was near the study desk, closest to the door where the deceased was seated. The accused then confronted Zo, asking her as to why she was taking him for granted. Although Nosipho could not recall the exact words, but the deceased asked as to what she had done. The deceased thereafter moved to Nosipho, crying, and she sat next to Nosipho on the bed. At that stage, the accused pulled a chair and sat on it in front of both Nosipho and the deceased. She could not recall as to where the firearm was at that stage. As they were seated on the bed, the deceased kept on apologizing and further asking the accused as to what she had done. As they were seated there, two people knocked at the door, but they did not respond to that knock. It was just normal knocks. Nobody entered the room. After the knocking, there was a brief period whereafter the accused said to the deceased that she must stand up. The deceased obeyed and stood up. At that stage, Nosipho retreated from them and went towards the window. She then heard the first gunshot. She realized that the situation was serious. She called for help through the window. There were security guards at the residential building. They came and knocked, but the accused said he would only open for the police. But before the police had come, she had heard, whilst standing at the window, she had had two further gunshots. She then kneeled down on the other side next to the bed. She was facing to
Right, it seems that we lost connection there, but we'll try to resume. Judgment being handed down in this case, and the judge was just talking a bit about the calls that Mzolo actually made after the incident had happened. He's still an accused at this stage. The court also heard that Zolile Khumalo, ended this relationship with Mzolo 2 days before the murder, as of the 1st of May. Yep. That's where the incident happened, 2018. The accused and the deceased no longer had a relationship. That's what we heard.
A lot of interest when the event happened, when the killing happened, and now judgment being handed down. We'll await that outcome coming out anytime soon. Let's take a break for now. You're watching The Agenda.